Good morning, folks. Get a little bit more light on this subject here. It's the middle of the morning. I'm sneezing because my CPAP machine, the mask fitting just isn't quite right, and it's irritating my nose, and I'm sneezing like it's crazy. Oh, forgive me for that. You're hearing the space heater next to me. That's the noise that's in the background. And that's because it's going down to 49 degrees here for the first night below 50 degrees. I still only have a sheet on the bed. I've got to wash this new cover. Whoops, sorry about that. Just dropped the whole camera. It's October 24th. It's my birthday. Kind of a big day for me because I'm no longer a young man. I guess I haven't been a young man for actually quite a while. But I got a confirmation just a few minutes ago of something I've been suspecting for a while. And that is that these invaders are being given a lot more money than our own people are given. And I heard before that it was $4,000 or $5,000 a month they were each given, much more than any of our citizens given on Social Security. Guess what? Turns out it's a lot more money than that. Each invader guest is funded by our own government to the tune of $40,000 in a relocation loan that not only is never it's never required to be paid back, but they don't even trace it. They don't know where the people are going. They don't know where the money's going. But you can bet that that's throwing our economy off. The young woman recently trying to get money for a room. I had no idea they were so expensive. Now a cheap hotel room is $130 on a weeknight. She was short $16. I don't know if she got it or not. I don't use Cash App and all that stuff. There wasn't much to be asking somebody to give them, to be honest with you. It's the most reasonable request I've gotten all week or all year. Nobody asked for that little bit of amount of money with that kind of an excuse either. It's pretty well justified. Let's get off the street, right? Especially if you're a young lady. Well, the sad thing is she's doing more than just getting off the street. She's kind of getting on the street, if you know what I mean. I don't like contributing to that. But really, what sucks is the fact that she has to compete for that room with these illegals. I call them illegals because they're here illegally. Look, folks, our own government is the enemy. The Biden administration in particular is working to destroy the United States of America. And I think if you stop them right now, you couldn't stop what's going to be coming. First of all, fuel oil in New England is $6 a gallon right now as I speak. Guess what? Before the end of winter, it's going to be $9 a gallon, which means that your gasoline is going to be $7.50 a gallon by end of winter. And we're headed for $15 gallon gasoline, which means your fuel oil is going to be $18. Might as well call it $20 a gallon. Look, I'm not real happy about that. I'm just trying to stay up in my presentation here so I don't start sneezing all over the place. I want you to understand the government is your enemy. This is not our government. There's 4 different corporations entitled Slight Variances on the United States of America. And they've done this giant shell game with it to screw us all over out of our inheritance and to enslave us all. You cannot be a free people when you're required to use Rothschild-based debt notes by which they steal from us. These banking notes, I could show you in one book. I've got it somewhere, probably in storage. And they changed the writing on the notes, the bank notes over time, so they could pull their fraud. We're talking about an intergenerational, at this point centuries old, bunch of frauds that are going on, that are culminating here at the United States of America, which basically is illegally occupied by a foreign power, a foreign government. And the reason we have a drug trade is because the United States government and those wonderful politicians want it that way, because they're making a lot of money off it. And in case you're wondering about human trafficking, we're always told how bad it is, and the assumption is that it's always prostitution. Oh, it's always children, too. We assume that. Well, I guess everybody's a child in a certain sense. I'm even a child, I guess, in that case. No. Seriously, folks, our own government here is the biggest child trafficking organization on the planet. Everything is set up to confuse you and to make it all look like it's all kosher, all above board, all honorable. And it is dishonorable, it is fraudulent, it is below board, and it is horrible. Could you imagine if we shut off the flow of illegal aliens coming into the country right now? The cost of that room per night would go down so that those people that are on the streets could actually maybe afford to get off the street once in a while. At least a lot easier. I don't think, I'm sorry, but it shouldn't cost more than $50 a night. That's a lot of money to me, to just get off the street for the night and get yourself shelter, a shower, and be secure for the night. But way over $100 for your average flea-bag, cock-ridden roach hotel. How can you fight the central federal government? And Homeland Security is helping these people invade the country. Why do we even have a Homeland Security if that's what it's going to be doing? And that's what it's doing. And they use these non-government organizations, the NGOs. That's how they've taken this country down to a large extent. And if you want to know a source for that, although it's just starting to come to reference to places like the Epoch Times. I know you all say Epic Times. I used to say it too, but it's EPOCH. Now, I think the people at that newspaper ought to change their names. Since we're all calling it Epic, they might as well change the spelling, put an I in the middle of it instead of an O. They're calling it Epoch, like the epoch. You know, we're in an epoch. And you do not have a Second Amendment, and you certainly don't have a First Amendment anymore. Your Bill of Rights is gone. These people that have invaded and taken over the country own these corporations, these interlocking corporate boards. Same people are on the same boards. They're all controlled by the same bunch of jackasses who are anti-American. They're destroying us as fast as they can. I don't think we can recover from it, even if we stop it right now. Trump started this free money, this helicopter money, so that's on him. But what's happened with the Democrats and the Biden administration is they've destroyed our currency. They've destroyed our economy. They've destroyed it all. I mean, even if they don't pass another bill, by the time all of these spending bills, if you will, which basically bring money from the future into the present, it's criminal. By the time all that money hits the scene, your money's going to be worth half at best of what it's worth today, maybe even only a fourth of what it's worth today, or how about an eighth of what it's worth today? Yes, you're going to be losing buying power. I know you're going to say, well, the cost of things are going up. Oh, hell no. The buying power of the money, the value of the money is what's going down. And that's not because of your bankers. It's because of your Congress. They're a bunch of thieves, organized crime. You folks have it coming. We have it coming. We're getting what we deserve. We have the most laughingstock president ever in history. We have a pedophile in chief. There's things I can't say about him because I don't want to get into the strike. So I'm not even going to go much further than that, except to say that, what the hell? What the fuck is he doing in office? He should have been run out a long time ago. And if you Democrats don't get rid of him by January, I pray to God that what's left of the men in this country, and there's some fine women marksmen in the United States of America too, by God. I pray people start raising those little guns to their arms and picking off these predators, these leeches, these politicians that are making so much money off us. We need to go back to a volunteer government and a government by the people. And in case you're wondering, the militias have been maligned. My God, there was a gubernatorial candidate. I tried to talk her into just calling for the creation of a state militia. I told her men would come from across the nation to support your bid to be governor. She was afraid. She was afraid the federal government would come in and there'd be a bloodbath. Well, there's a possibility that you might have that, but I don't think the federal government is going to have the stomach to do what it takes to put down an entire state. And I think the people will rise up across the whole country against this central federal government. Nobody gives a shit about you assholes in Washington, D.C. anymore. We want you gone. And it's not like we believe we are going to have to pick up arms, bear arms against you. We already know that it's coming to that. We know. That's why we're armed up. That's why ammunition costs so much, guns cost so much, because the demand is so high. And it's not going to go back down. There's going to be more guns being bought and sold as these laws that you foisted off on us start going by one. I can't wait till I can get a standard-sized barrel gun instead of having to pay a tax stamp on it. What a fraud you perpetrated on us. I want, and by the way, there's no statute of limitations on frauds. So those bastards are always going to be prosecutable. And the standard, almost an international standard, cost for fraud is you pay 3 times what you took. And maybe even beyond that. I would love to see that happen to the central government. Yes, I want to see it destroyed. I'm tired of it. I'm sick and tired of it. And you should be tired of it too. And this media is totally controlled. Look, folks, when the communists go in and want to take a place over, one of the first things they go for is the media, the radio stations. But in most cases, we're talking about an immediate invasion or a rebellion, some sort of a bloody revolution that you can see. It's happening right in front of your eyes. What's happened to the United States, what's happened to the American states, is these bastards moved in slowly and over time took us over. And I still want an accounting what happened. I think it was July 3rd, 1933. I can't remember the exact year. Well, it was 33. Don't remember the exact date, if it was July 5th or 3rd, but it was on a Monday. And it was called something celebrating the romance. And these people did a ceremony, a mock ceremony, we hope, sacrificing a baby, an infant, to their god Moloch in Chicago on Soldiers Field. I want an accounting for that. And by the way, on March 3rd or March 4th of that year, that's when they declared war on Germany. Before Mr. Hitler took office, they declared war. Guess what happened on that date? It's the date that Jesus Christ, that's how you know that, most of you out there who will see that will know him by that name. I call him Yahshua the Messiah, was crucified. Do these people do anything without symbolism? Everything they do is on purpose. It's going to be easy to track them down. They reveal themselves. They show themselves in the symbolism. My God, I can't believe how many of our law enforcement badges and symbols have got the symbols of pedophilia embedded in them in part. My God, we're a sick nation to tolerate this shit, this crap. We should be putting these people to death that do this stuff. We shouldn't be tolerating them, that's for sure. And we shouldn't be just merely incarcerating them so that they can have their jollies and live vicariously through apprentices on the outside. Man, some of these crazy-ass women go for these murderers that are in prison to the point where they'll do anything for them, including take a human life. Or do something weird to the children and write it in detail so those guys can relive their apprentice doing that shit on the outside. We're dealing with a sociopathic culture. They don't care about marriage, families, and children. They just walk around telling you what's in the best interest of the child. That's their excuse for the power that they want. Bunch of frickin' tyrants. $40,000. Man, maybe I need to go down and apply for some sort of a visa to Mexico and come across that border. I could put 40 grand to use right now. I don't even want to think about that. It's not right taking money that has not been earned. It's not right taking something for nothing. That causes trouble. That's what I've learned in my life. Oh, just try it just for free. We do need your credit card number, however. And you can stop at any time. Yeah, right. I don't go for any of that anymore. It just became a principle for me. Thou shalt not take free stuff. Don't be a sucker. Most of these con artists and con jobs, they rationalize their stuff based upon the fact that you're willing to take advantage of somebody else. So they give you some bait to see if you'll take the free stuff, the unethical, irresponsible, immoral free stuff, and that way they can excuse, well, you were going to take it, so I just took it from you. You know? $40,000 is the reward money for coming here and entering the country and becoming a future Democrat. Now, in my opinion, the Democrat Party should be made illegal. I'd love to see AOC. Man, how dumb is she? I had somebody, my personal trainer, says she's a very beautiful woman. She's attractive. Oh, hell no, with those big, square, chunky teeth and that dumbass, the local DJ, James T, talks about her big butt. He got away with it. That, my folks, is what you call black privilege. The man gets away with talking about the Latina's rump. I couldn't get away with it. Why? Because we're a racist, discriminatory country. And it is in law. It's chiseled in stone. Thou shalt discriminate against men. Especially white men. That's the law of the land in this country. Don't you realize that that's the effect of those equal opportunity laws? They require you to discriminate against white men. And you want to say that we're not racist in this country? You want to say that we're fair? Look, we can level this playing field really quickly. You put me in that office. I don't want to be in the White House. There can be some other jackass like that. I'll do what Barack Obama does. You give me a nice estate on Martha's Vineyard. I'll sit my ass out there and I'll call in the orders to the jackass in the White House, the clown in the White House. One of the first things I do is get rid of this IRS and go back to tariffs and duties at the borders. 30% tariffs and duties at the borders, and tell the central government, the central thieving communist government here, hey, boys and girls, you're going to run on that. Not only that, you're not going to run on projected revenues. I don't give a shit. I don't give a flying fuck or a rip about you. You're going to live on what you got in the bank already. You're not going to spend money from the future. Wow. I rather like myself and like my ideas at this point. I'm not such a bad guy. Okay, I've done some stupid stuff. We all do stupid stuff. We all learn. We all make mistakes. We all have bad thoughts too. That's just the nature of human nature and the way thought occurs. The positive and the negative thought occurs at the same time, and they bubble up through consciousness, and one of them in particular surfaces. And if we have good training, if we've been brought up right, if we're reading our Bibles, then the stuff that comes up to the surface is usually pretty doggone good. This country has pulled a bunch of weird frauds against us all. They've stolen everything in this land. By God, we in the United States of America had 80% of the world's gold. We were the richest nation on earth based upon that blessing. Now, my theory is, and my older friend, who's lost his faculties, so I can't talk to him and ask him and get answers, is he said he had a master's in geology. He said that the evidence in the Bible is that a planet hit the earth. It was a little bit smaller than our own planet, but because of that, the earth has a greater preponderance of heavy metals than the average planet our size. And because of that, we have this life upon the earth. We have this amazingly beautiful planet because of that. Now, if you go back to the Sumerians and the Inca and all that other stuff, they got the same thing happening where one guy leads a planet into the earth to create a better place, if you will. I say there's a lot of truth to a lot of those things. Those Greek myths, unfortunately, there's a lot of truth to some of those weird, twisted stories. $40,000 relocation loan, not registered, just given to them. My God, with 40 grand, they can get into an apartment, into a house. They could buy a car. I think they can buy a car. I think the average low yield bottom of the line car is probably only $40,000 now. Hell, I remember when $3,600 was a lot for a car. I remember 19 cents a gallon gasoline most of my life when I was a child, except for one time the gas war where it was 15 cents a gallon. Oh, and the gas didn't have any ethanol in it. It had real energy in it, so you could go more miles on it. And not only that, your engine lasted longer with it, and it actually polluted the air less. Yes, your government saw fit to give you that. That jackass Al Gore, vice president, broke the tie in the Senate that stuck you with ethanol-bearing gas. It should be immoral, illegal, unlawful to take a food product away from the market because somebody somewhere is suffering and could use that food. It could bring the price down just a little bit, which might help that little guy in a corner of the world be able to get something to eat that day. I would love to take a tally. Man, if I was president, one of my first tasks would be, I want an investigation on all the starvation that's occurred as a result of Al Gore. Yeah, I want to bring him to trial for the murders. That stupid ass cast a vote that resulted in starvation, not so much in America, but somewhere outside the world. I want to go dig it up and discover it. Charge his ass with murder. Make him a felon. Incarcerate him. Take the boy into custody for himself. God, you realize that by using the word boy, I get accused of being a fucking racist? The blacks are inherently racist against us, far as I can tell. I'm sorry. I know some aren't. I know they aren't all bad. It's like not all whites are all good, that's for sure. $40,000 to come into this country illegally, to walk across that border with your Biden phone, probably wearing a Biden t-shirt, probably with designer shoes on, designer clothes provided by this administration. Probably even got armed guards to guide them in. Oh, and Joe Biden puts them on jets and flies them in the dead of the night into the Republican strongholds. He's been dropping off these future Democrats into Republican areas so they can take them over time. Displace the original inhabitants, change the electorate. Only in America are people so stupid. Why? Because they constantly tell you you're the greatest country on earth, greatest nation on earth, and nobody would ever do that to you. We wouldn't let them do that. Folks, like my video. Leave me a nice, kind message down there. Give me a suggestion what you want me to give you some information on, what you want me to look at or think about. Now, I've got to praise Clarence Thomas, and I got to be careful. I can't call him a boy. You guys get upset. I think he's a white supremacist. Why? He appropriated this white hair from me. See, I ain't got any. He's got all the hair. He took it from me. He took it from me in my sleep. Oh, yeah. That's cultural appropriation. Look, I have a lot of respect for the gentleman. He came up with a very simple judgment call there. But I think he thought about that for a long time before he gave it. I don't think it was just on the spot. I think he thought about that for decades before he issued it forth. And what you need to understand is all gun control is racist. I know you're going to say, he's got racism on the mind, man. This guy's nuts. He can't stop thinking about it or talking about it. Actually, gun control started racist. It was called the Black Code. The Black Codes. And it was after the Civil War, and people were afraid of blacks having power. And since they were such large numbers in the South, they were worried about them throwing over the mainstream, if you will. So they come up with a black code to keep guns, firearms out of the blacks' hands. So we have a man, he looks black. So is it okay for me to assume that, or does that make me a racist? I think it's only fitting that a black man rises to the highest level of the court, and he should actually be the Chief Justice. He would be if I was president, because I'd get rid of the other yahoos in a heartbeat. And I'd chastise Justice Thomas and tell him, you guys can't be accepting no Chi-Com money for showing up and saying hello as you get off the airplane under the guise of giving a speech, getting $1 million or $2 million a year. That's not quite right. And also, he represented, I believe he was representing Monsanto back when they were pulling off some of this chemical warfare on us, some of this genetic, biological warfare on us. You don't look at it that way, but it is that way. You need to actually be able to discern the truth. You read the Bible to be able to learn how to think straight and be able to recognize things. That's what that book does. It gives you good programming. It's putting good stuff into you. Best Bible in the world, get that link down below. Best price in the world, through Dr. Kent, right here. It's the cheapest price. All pricing from Dr. Kent, or through me, ends in 77 cents. I love that. 70 times 7. That's how often we're supposed to forgive our brothers and sisters. Yes, it's in the Bible. Go look it up. Don't ask me where it is. I don't have much of a working memory. I had 2 strokes in 2006. I'm so glad I can have this conversation with you. I'm so glad I do have the presence of mind I do have. I'm so glad I can read the Bible and remember it, pretty much. I have to repeat it. I have to read it again. Okay? You have an advantage, on the other hand. You might be able to read it once and get it and keep it. I've got to reread it. The only reason I know I reread it before is because my Bible is marked up dog-eared. It is colored. Oh, boy, I got to be careful. I'm going racist again. Ooh, can't be doing that. Yeah, well, I got red ink in there. Oh, my God. Yeah, and I got black ink in there. Yeah. And on top of that, I got yellow, bright yellow, fluorescent yellow highlighting. Oh, and I got dog-eared pages, so I don't know what kind of sin I'm committing by doing that one too. All this stuff. I'm such a racist, That's what I've been told. That's what I hear. I love it when they bring this stuff up in court. Jackasses. They're the racist. Anybody who points that out. So, if I was president, how would I level the playing field? Original 13th Amendment goes back into place. We expand that to deprive every dual citizen of any and all citizenship in these states. We don't give them a choice. We strip them of their citizenship and we tell them, get the fuck out. Get out. We don't want dual loyalties. And if they're in government positions, we have to debrief them and determine what damage they may have caused us. Because some of them have damaged us on purpose. And most of them are Israeli duels, and they've done it for Israel. They're not America firsters. Your boy Trump is not an America firster. And in that, he's just like Joe Biden. They're both just like each other when it comes to Israel first. They're not America first. Forgive my sniffles. The 14th and 15th Amendments would be voided because the South was not represented when they were passed. So all legislation, all legal precedent based upon those would disappear as well. We got to level the playing field, get away from some of the statutory stuff, some of these wrongful precedents. We got to go back to common law courts. Constitutional courts. Constitutional law. You ever heard the Constitution? Read it. It's important. And since the 16th Amendment was never even voted upon, moreover, since it's out of order, because if it had been legitimate, it would have been number 14. But it never was even voted upon. That's null and void. And you know what the 16th Amendment is, don't you? Go look it up. I'm not going to do all the work for you. I think you'll be very pleased to see what that 16th Amendment does away with. Would it's properly gone the way it should be. And the 17th Amendment gets rid of the direct election for these political leeches called senators today, these professional politicians. We get rid of them, and we get a chance to get real statesmen. Why? Because senators will be elected once again from the state governments, from among their legislators, subject to instant recall should they not vote the way their state government wants them to vote. Yeah, I'm liking it, aren't you? No more pay and benefits from the federal government because you're representing your state government. Your state government will give you what they deem reasonable wages and benefits, reasonable salary. Your governor or your treasurer will sign your checks, so you know who you're beholden to. So we get rid of a large part of the federal government's operating expense right there and lay that on the states. And then we have a chance to call ourselves a republic, because the parties to the Constitution will once again be represented. Right now, we've not had representation for a long time. That's how things get off kilter. You lose that check and balance where you can fire a jackass like McCain or Lindsey Graham or McConnell. Any of these people that don't vote the way the state government wants them to vote. Any of these warmongers in particular. Be a real good idea. Any of these people that have got their fingers in the cookie jar in the drug trade or human trafficking trade on the side, or doing insider trading on the stock market. Can you believe that's legal for them to do? No wonder it's corrupt. It's been corrupted through and through. And this money, it's not money. Debt instruments. Oh, you don't even own those. That's the property of that central bank. I say we give it back to them, and we tax them 105% of their income since their inception, their unconstitutional, illegal inception in 1913. When you get rid of the Internal Revenue Service, that code or all that, you get rid of a hell of a burden. And you level the playing field, because then the average man gets his wages, keeps his wages. He's not required to fund communist endeavors like your public indoctrination system, your public school system. He's not required to fund his demise like $40,000 relocation loans for illegal aliens that are never tracked. We don't know where the money is or where they are. My God, they're more free than you or me. Yes, there is freedom in the United States of America for all of our guests. They're worth more than you or I are. My God, they can commit a crime and they haven't been getting prosecuted for decades for their crimes. Whereas you or me, we got to go to prison for that stuff. And them, they're our guests. Let them go. They could do what they want. They can do no wrong. Kitty rapist. Drunk driving murderers. Homicides. Murdering people. Thieving. They can do all these crimes and we let them go free. We don't even punish them. Identity theft. You get rid of the IRS and the average man keeps his wages. There's no withholding. That's a good thing. You see, we were founded upon biblical principles, and our founders would never have allowed a man to be deprived of his wages, his daily wages, by which he supports himself, lest he become dependent upon the public dole. And you get rid of the nonprofit organizations and all the benefits they get so that they can take advantage and put the screws to the rest of us and undermine our government. And you got to get rid of most favored trade nation status, because you have to treat everybody outside the country equally. That's where your equality comes. You have to treat them all the same. No preferential treatment. You're not going to fund one group against another group. That's what you did in the Ukraine, for one. It's what you did everywhere else, too. To meddle and cause wars and to manipulate. Yeah, we've been doing that. We're the ones responsible for the mess in the Ukraine, not Putin. Putin's action was defensive. We pushed him into a corner. We pushed the boy into a corner. Putin and I are the same age, I believe. I'm also the same age as, oh my God, Jeffrey Epstein and that Weingarten, whatever, that's not his name, Weinstein, Harvey, same age as them. I think I turned out a little bit better. Nowhere near as wealthy, but nowhere near as messed up. My God. Why is Epstein's list not made public? Don't you think that should be made public? Why has the Attorney General not made Epstein's list public? It should be public. I demand it be made public. So what's the Attorney General hiding? Who is the Attorney General protecting? We need that public. They're protecting the corrupt status quo. And in case you're wondering, it was corrupted by the FBI on purpose. Because whenever they did an investigation into a man's background, if they had two candidates for a judgeship, if one of them was squeaky clean, he didn't get appointed. You would have thought it would have worked out differently. But we have it from one of the FBI employees that it was only the dirty ones that got the appointments. Why? because they could be blackmailed and controlled. Yes, it's dirty. It is so corrupt, I don't know if it can be saved. I don't know if it can be salvaged. I think if you buy my Bible, read my Bible, and get yourself in proper line with the law, God's law, Yahweh's law, natural law, the blessings will flow. It's written in the Bible. It's written in Leviticus, Deuteronomy. The blessings for obedience. And the curses are in there too. It's all in there. You got to read it. The foundations of Western civilization are in that Bible. And I know you've been deprived of it mostly because of the lying pastors, which Isaiah wrote about. You know, how we would love to be told smooth talk and something about beer in the pastures. You love to be lied to. You love the political correctness. You do not want to face the truth. That's why you don't like people like me to tell you the truth. You don't want free discourse and free communication, so you censor people in the name of science? And the science is settled? Since when is science settled? Since when has man stopped learning? Since when have we not discovered new things, invented new ways? Nothing is settled. Certainly not inside our borders. We need to get control of our own nation back. And I'll tell you this, I would love to see Washington, District of Criminals, District of Corruption, Center of Crime for the world at this point. I'd love to see the people surround Washington, D.C. and wall it off. Start with sheets of concrete, of plywood, and do yourself a temporary wall and build some cement up around it. And those people that want to rule over us from there and want this corruption, leave them walled up. Make it a damn prison. Do not let anyone or anything out, and don't let anything in. Let them eat each other. Because that's what they've got planned for you here. That wall isn't necessary on the Mexican border. That wall's to keep you in. Just like the Berlin Wall. It was to keep people in. If I was president, would take Mexico and use the entire country as a southern border. Would use it as a buffer zone. Would take the lands that extend from that parallel, the southern edge of Arizona, and would go straight across to the Pacific Ocean. Arizona would thereby get a port city. I'd occupy Mexico, make sure that their oil comes to market, build a pipeline, use their labor, not slave labor, give them proper work, proper compensation for their labor. But of course, the first thing is send us, and I'd have the army administer this thing. And at the end of the period necessary for them to repay us for their theft from us, for what their people have taken from us illegally, and then I'd hand them over their own resources and let them cash in the oil in that pipeline properly. Same with their silver. I'd make sure their silver wasn't sabotaged and came to market, because we need their silver more than we need our own gold. Silver is the wave of the future. I haven't looked this up, but did you know how many pounds of silver are in each cruise missile? I heard it was 200 pounds. I got to go look that up. If you look that up, put it in the comments for us. 200 pounds of silver gets blown up in every cruise missile. No wonder they're so damn expensive. Folks, we got enough resources on the planet for everybody to be a rich man, a rich woman. We can deploy these modern inventions that generate energy freely, and we can give energy away. You realize how much wealthier you're going to be when your energy is all free? And don't worry about global warming. What's going on right now as the Earth is in its natural cycles and things are in constant flux and shifting. The planet virtually recycles itself every so many thousands of years. The Earth has got some grand cycles. We're at one of them. And when 5 of these add up, we're at a bigger grand cycle where the destruction level is even worse and the survival rate is lower. This one, we're going to get a pretty good survival rate on it. That's from what I can tell. That doesn't mean it's going to be hunky-dory. Certainly not for everybody. Some people are going to be killed in this thing, for sure. I don't think we're going to lose much, though. I think we might lose 5%, maybe 10%, of life on the planet overall as a whole, which is not too bad compared to other times in which humans have been reduced to tens of thousands of individuals. I know you've been deprived of the science. You don't know about this stuff. $40,000 each illegal gets. Relocation loan. Never to be traced. Never to be paid back. They got more freedom than you or me. They're worth more than you or I. Their own government is bringing them in. No wonder. It's an invasion. And look at the hypocrisy. They'll take these future Democrat voters and put them where the Republicans live. They'll insist that we have to take them and take the burden, but they can't do it at Martha's Vineyard. Those nice, fine, non-racist people out on Martha's Vineyard. We have some presidents that have done war crimes, crimes against humanity. They need to be brought to justice, handed over to the world court, handed over to other nations. We have some, what do you call them? Philanthropists. Sometimes I want to call them philanderers because they might be that too. But you have some philanthropists who have murdered people in other countries, who have done damage. I think one of them, his mischief over there in India, paralyzed like 500,000 girls. I'd hand his ass over to the people in India, the subcontinent of India, and I'd tell them, hey, do what you want with him. But, when you're done with him, we want him back. And if he comes back in a box, we need to gird up our loins and fight for truth and justice. We don't even know what's true anymore. They're trying to start World War III on us. I don't know if we can avoid it. Signer von Rensburg was his name. I said it wrong in my other video earlier, but I put the correction in the notes. He said that World War III was going to take 2 weeks. He also said the United States of America in the first 24 hours was going to lose its armament and would never be a superpower again. He said that the Civil War was going to start in the middle of our nation. And yet, Jordan Peterson says the Civil War is starting in the Ukraine. He says that the Ukraine and Russia is part of the West. I think that's a wise way to look at it. I don't think Russia's part of the Orient. Russia, the people, are descended from the same stock as we are. They are members from the northern 10 tribes of Israel. Remember the lost house of Israel? Yahweh remembers them. He knows who they are. He knows who you are. He knows who we are. Putin looks like the only adult in the room. He said he went into there with cause, and when the world was ready to hear him, he would present his case. I want to hear what he has to say. I want to know what shenanigans Barack Obama was up to over there. I've been blaming it on the Democrats. It looks like it was the neocons among the Republicans who set this one up. Just like they fabricated the reason to go to war against Saddam Hussein. Did you know that all of those oil wells that were set on fire were done by our own troops in fast attack vehicles. They went and they set fire to the oil wells in Kuwait in order to justify, false flag, us into another war. And they set Saddam Hussein up. Saddam Hussein would have done anything for us. He would have enriched this country. You and I would be sitting in much more posh circumstances today had Saddam Hussein been allowed to actually avoid that war. The men and women, Condi Rice, of course, that were involved in setting that thing up, they're all guilty of war crimes, need to be brought to justice. I'd like to ship that jackass over there. I think he's really from Maine. Family's from up there, I think, but they call themselves Texans now. I'd like to ship his ass overseas. I'd like to ship it right to Iraq and tell those people, try him. Do it legally. Let him defend himself. Do with him as you please. I think that's the biggest way we could say I'm sorry to the Iraqi people. How many million people did we kill? Did we murder in Iraq because that jackass lied to us? And what about the institutions that we had that lied and said they were weapons of mass destruction? Did you realize that right now we are backing the daily bombing, shelling of the world's largest nuclear reactor? Or one of them anyway, in the Ukraine? Yeah, we encourage and we give the bombs and everything to Zelensky so he can bomb that son of a bitch. Why do we do that insane stuff? Why such? That's insanity. Okay, folks. We all ought to go to Mexico, get our visas out, and come across the border demanding asylum and getting $40,000 checks. Then, of course, the money would be totally worthless. Yahweh bless.